You're a white guy, she's a black woman. Let's talk about that.
Film and TV have long used the on-screen interracial romance as a way to explore our own evolving relationships with racism.
I don't see color. I see people for who they are the exact same way I see you.
If you don't see my blackness, you don't see me.
From I Love Lucy to Jungle Fever to The Big Sick, we've progressed from cautious depictions of interracial romance to politically charged melodramas that confront them head-on to more modern tales where race is seen as just one of love's many complexities.
I never thought I'd end up with someone who wasn't black, you know?
Totally. Me and Jamal are always talking about how we're not each other's types, but I don't know, it works.
But even as movies and TV have increasingly normalized the interracial relationship, it remains a singular and significant dynamic on screen, and an essential part of our cultural conversation.
Do they know I'm black?
No. Should they?
Stories about interracial relationships tend to fall into three general categories. In the first category, interracial relationships pose a challenge to their families or communities.
One of your own kind, stick to your own kind.
A second category takes a more colorblind approach, reflecting the increasing real-world acceptance of interracial romance while ignoring the prejudices that complicate it.
I know you're deflecting by making jokes about how high you
It's
are.
not a joke. I'm a legit snack.
And third, stories that find a middle ground, engaging with those prejudices while also normalizing the relationship itself, bring necessary dimension to characters who might otherwise be reduced to the color of their skin.
It's unbelievable that we live in a city where our ancestors passed through Ellis Island.
Mine didn't.
Here's our take on how all of these depictions of the interracial relationship bring something to the table, even if they come from different points of view.
I'm sorry if I can't be your Nubian prince on my black horse, ready to take you back to Zamunda.
It's not a real African country.
Can I at least get a little credit for a solid Coming to America reference?
Hi everyone, I'm Susanna.
And I'm Deborah, and you're watching
The Take. Be sure to share and subscribe.
and never miss a take.
This video is brought to you by Vincero Watches, our favorite creators of exceptionally crafted timepieces. Whether you're looking for something bold that draws attention or something classic to complete your look, Vincero Watches has an affordably priced watch for you, no matter the occasion. Vincero Watches help you look and feel your best. We absolutely love this watch and all that it has to offer. Click the link in the description below, vincerowatches.com/thetake, or enter code THETAKE for 20% off your entire order and free global shipping. 1967 saw the debut of Stanley Kramer's Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, in which a young white woman, played by Katherine Houghton, introduces her family to her black fiancé, played by Sidney Poitier.
I hope you wouldn't think it presumptuous if I say you ought to sit down before you fall down, I mean.
He thinks you're gonna faint because he's a Negro.
Billed as a love story of today, it truly couldn't have been more timely. Interracial marriage remained illegal in 16 states until just 2 weeks after the film finished production. By the time it debuted, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner wasn't just about this one on-screen family confronting its feelings on interracial coupling.
Would you think it was some kind of cowardice if I told you that no matter how confident you two are, I'm just a little scared?
America was finally confronting them as well.
Civil rights is one thing. This here is something else.
Kramer's film was a commercial success, even in those southern states where interracial marriage had so recently been outlawed, and it broke barriers by showcasing a kiss between Houghton and Poitier. But it was also criticized for its fairly shallow read on such a complicated topic.
You're two wonderful people who happen to fall in love and happen to have a pigmentation problem.
Much of that criticism centered on Poitier's character, Dr. John Prentice, whom the film makes out to be impossibly perfect.
You know this fellow you brought home's a very important man. Are you aware of that?
I'm wholly aware of it.
As the writer James Baldwin noted, it held up Poitier as an unattainable standard for black people to meet, just to be accepted.
Black people particularly disliked Guess Who's Coming to Dinner because they felt that Sidney was, in effect, being used against them.
Joanna, too, is not so much a fully developed character as a thinly sketched representation of young love.
Mom, it's John Wade Prentice. Isn't that a lovely name?
Failing to flesh out the lovers as individuals robs the film of complexity. Like Joanna, the film doesn't look directly at the issues it's raising.
It's not just that our color difference doesn't matter to her. It's that she doesn't seem to think there is any difference.
Notably, the film gives more thoughtful treatment to the parents, played by Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy, as professed liberals with supposedly progressive ideals.
She said, my dad is a lifelong fighting liberal who loathes race prejudice and has spent his whole life fighting against discrimination.
They're forced to confront their own biases and hypocrisies once these fights are brought into their own home.
Things are changing.
I have a feeling they're not changing anywhere else quite as fast as they are in my own backyard.
And of course, their fears are based on what everyone else will think.
I happen to know they wouldn't have a dog's chance. Not in this country, not in the whole stinking world.
The fear of how the world will respond is a common thread in stories of interracial relationships.
But it's not us. It's everything around us.
Particularly those involving black men, who have long been subject to racist narratives about the threats they pose to white women.
Birth of a Nation confirmed the story that many whites wanted to tell about the Civil War and its aftermath.
There's a famous scene where a woman throws herself off a cliff rather than be raped by a black male criminal.
In Spike Lee's Jungle Fever, the affair between Wesley Snipes and Annabella Sciorra inflames an entire community. Her father beats her. His father condemns him.
Still got to fish in the white man's cesspool. I have nothing but contempt.
Total strangers insult them.
I can't even believe you brought her stringy hair ass up here to eat.
Eventually, even the police get involved.
Put him up, I said!
The film is dedicated to Yusuf Hawkins, a black man killed in 1989 over rumors he was romancing white women, and it seems to argue that the world will simply never accept the interracial couple.
I give up. It's not worth it.
Guess Who's Coming to Dinner ends on a decidedly more hopeful note. Black and white families sitting down together at the table, the literal realization of Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream, articulated just a few years before.
Sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood.
The film suggests racism is just a generational problem, that the times are changing, and that young people are already leading the way.
You and your whole lousy generation believes the way it was for you is the way it's got to be. And not until your whole generation has lain down and died will the dead weight of you be off our backs.
But in retrospect, this seems like so much Hollywood backpatting, the opposite extreme of Jungle Fever's pessimism.
She's white.
White? Man, are you on crack or something?
4 months after Guess Who's Coming to Dinner was released, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, and the struggle for racial equality continues to this day. Even Katherine Houghton herself would later agree with James Baldwin, saying that while the film may have started conversations, they were largely one-sided.
Black friends of mine, when I've said to them, what is your reaction to the film? They've all said, well, it wasn't written for black people. It was written for white people.
In 2017, Jordan Peele's Get Out offered a horror movie spin on Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, with another story of a black man visiting the parents of his white girlfriend.
So how long has this been going on, this thing?
Peele's film questions and subverts the rosy outlook of Guess Who to expose the myth of the post-racial society that sprung up around Barack Obama.
By the way, I would have voted for Obama for a third term if I could.
While these white liberals welcome him to the family, Get Out suggests there's an even more insidious racism lurking within these supposed progressives who fetishize black people.
So, is it true? Is it better?
Wow. Appropriate their culture.
Black is in fashion.
And through their soothing post-racial rhetoric, ultimately want to keep them in the sunken place.
Now you're in the sunken place.
Meeting the Family continues to be a formula that stories periodically revisit to track society at large's changing views toward interracial relationships.
Did you tell them that I'm white?
You're white?
Stop the car! I'm so sorry. It was a joke, sir. I was kidding.
And while the family formula often doesn't provide the most nuanced depiction of the interracial romance, often reducing the couple itself to a political symbol,
We spend more time defending our relationship than actually having one.
It does offer a useful snapshot of the progress we've made, or our illusions about it. Not every depiction of an interracial relationship directly addresses race, nor does it need to. As Russell Boast, president of the Casting Society of America, points out, there's been a kind of glamorization of diversity where creators think that having it means it has to be a plot point. But sometimes that can have the opposite effect, making it feel not normal. Most interracial couples want to be treated like any other love story and to see themselves portrayed honestly as individuals without the politics or the melodrama. When it comes to this colorblind approach, it's notable that some of the more prominent depictions have taken place in otherworldly settings.
When are we going to do something about this unspoken thing between us?
In 1968, as America was engulfed in civil rights struggles, Star Trek made history with one of TV's first interracial kisses between William Shatner's Captain Kirk and Nichelle Nichols' Lieutenant Uhura.
And I would hear your voice from all parts of the ship. And my fears would fade.
The sci-fi series offered an aspirational vision of future humanity, one that had left racism behind and learned to respect and value all life within its vast universe.
Species that enslaves other beings is hardly superior.
More recently, The Good Place earned praise for depicting several interracial relationships without making a big deal out of it.
What country am I from?
Is it racist if I say Africa?
Yes, and Africa is not a country.
But it's no coincidence the show takes place in the afterlife, where such mortal concerns as race seem relatively minor.
Listen, we have like 1 hour to create an entirely new afterlife and also save all of humanity.
Still, even here on Earth, we've increasingly seen interracial relationships depicted as normal without it becoming a major plot point. The Office made occasional jokes about the culture clash between Kelly, an Indian woman, dating the white Ryan.
Kelly Zach Braff ko pasang karti hai.
What?
Overall, though, their relationship is defined not by its racial differences, but by the pair's mutual toxicity.
She's like an addict, and I just had to get her clean.
And while it might be race that first brings Kelly and Ravi together,
Ravi, our amazing pediatrician, was asking us if we knew any girls, and I said, I know the perfect girl.
Because Kelly is Indian. And... oh, that's it.
Ultimately, as she's dumping Ravi for Ryan again, Kelly remains colorblind, and blind to a lot of other things as well.
You gave your baby an allergic reaction just to talk to me?
The colorblind approach reflects the fact that younger generations increasingly don't see interracial romances as controversial or even unusual. According to a Pew Research Center study in 2012, 93% of 18 to 29-year-olds accepted interracial dating, an attitude that's been reinforced repeatedly on screen by couples for whom race may be a consideration, but it's rarely a conflict, if it's even mentioned at all. Crucially today, these colorblind interracial couples are increasingly at the center of their story. Friends may have countered criticisms over its lack of diversity by casting Aisha Tyler to play Ross's girlfriend, but everyone knew she was only a temporary fling before he inevitably went back to Rachel.
Okay, that's it. We are seeing other people.
There are drawbacks to this approach. Whereas stories about interracial romances that challenge their communities often reduce them to just their politics.
You know what? Derek and I like each other, and if you have a problem with that, screw you.
The colorblind narratives ignore those politics completely.
I need you to know that I like you, Peter Kavinsky. And not in a fake way.
Still, while failing to engage directly in racial conversations might seem like reluctance, these depictions fulfill the equally important goal of representation. They allow interracial couples to be themselves rather than a symbol. Being colorblind on screen matters in a world that isn't, offering us a vision of how it should be.
Don't you understand that for the first time, we are seen as we should be seen?
We're talking about the cat?
The only couples that Ferguson knows are interracial, and while Winston views this as progress, he knows that it's not an accurate portrayal of the world.
We don't live in a colorblind world, but neither do we live in a political melodrama, so the most modern, more realistic approach to the interracial relationship seeks a middle ground, one that doesn't present race as its defining characteristic, but doesn't shy away from it either.
We were together.
That's all that matters.
Really? Because I'm feeling a little, I don't know, Sally Hemings, Thomas Jefferson about all this.
The couple in The Big Sick have plenty of obstacles to surmount, not least a life-threatening illness, but race is certainly among them.
I'm fighting a 1400-year-old culture. You were ugly in high school. There's a big difference.
In a more complex reversal of Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, Emily's white parents are comfortable with Kumail being Pakistani.
I said he should go back to ISIS.
What is it about him that made you say that?
It's Kumail's family who can't accept him dating a girl who isn't from their culture.
There is only one thing that we have ever asked for you, Kumi. That you be a good Muslim and you marry a Pakistani girl.
But even though Kumail's mother actually disowns him at one point, this conflict is only one part of a complex story. What matters most is how these two young people work through their relationship, not how others feel about it.
What brings you to New York?
Here to see someone?
We're no longer just telling simple morality plays about white families who learn to tolerate their daughter's black fiancé or offering colorblind utopias that pretend race doesn't exist. These more modern depictions are open about our differences without being consumed by them.
And you're Jewish.
Yeah, which is cool.
And I'm black, too. And gay.
They've even begun to represent interracial relationships where neither person is white or straight, offering a fuller, more complex picture of the many different kinds of cultural divides that have to be crossed in order for two people to be together.
You only consider yourself people of color when it benefits you.
What?
Oh, no.
That's not true. I don't think like that.
You're different.
Different how?
Most importantly, they put their focus on depicting characters as multifaceted individuals.
You like to watch me when you think I'm sleeping and trace the outlines of my face.
The 2016 drama Loving portrays the real-life story of Richard and Mildred Loving, whose Supreme Court case led to the legalization of interracial marriage in the same year that Guess Who's Coming to Dinner was released.
What you doing in bed with that woman?
I'm his wife.
That's no good here.
Yet, despite the story's obvious historical significance, the film makes a more powerful statement about portraying the Lovings as a thoroughly ordinary couple, lingering on their moments of domestic routine and unforced intimacy. Unusually in this kind of story, their community is even depicted as largely supportive. As writer-director Jeff Nichols told the New York Times, he wanted to highlight how segregation wasn't a clean divide in these communities.
We're not going to let you spend 1 minute longer in jail than it takes us to get down there to get you out.
Even today, our feelings about race aren't a clean divide either. Shows about a protagonist of color that primarily feature white love interests have sometimes been criticized for not focusing on people of color as viable partners, while holding up the love of a white person as the ultimate prize. This is an important concern in a world where data from dating apps suggests that many people are already biased towards white partners.
I did read somewhere that the people that do worst on the apps are Asian men and black women.
Well, it's great white people finally have an advantage somewhere.
The interracial relationship story is a way of looking at the broader social conflicts of racism through the private lens of an intimate, personally affecting story.
I know you're colored, and I think you're beautiful.
Beautiful. Most people would say the opposite.
Well, that's because they don't know you.
It's a story that asks us to question our histories and our unexamined privileges, and look at the inherent power dynamics that are always at play, even in our romances.
The Sally Hemings Thomas Jefferson comment was below the belt.
Because it's so untrue.
Even in those moments when it seems like we're the only two people in the world.
Black tax.
Yeah, you have to work twice as hard just to prove yourself equal.
Okay, then I'll work Saturday too.
And although we are still reimagining and perfecting its portrayal, the interracial relationship gives us all something to hope for. That moment when our past joins hands at last with a more loving future.
So, when are we gonna meet him? She's not afraid of the truth. Why are you?
This is The Take. What do you want our take on next?
This video is brought to you by Vincero Watches, our go-to for luxury watches at an affordable price. Vincero's careful craftsmanship is second to none. They source their own materials, produce in small batches, and ship straight to your door. Recently, our team was thrilled to try out the Clio mesh style in matte black and rose. We love the quality of the watch and the versatility of the style. It's perfect for professional and personal settings and is even water resistant for outdoor activities. With summer in full swing, Vincero Watches has also launched sunglasses. The District style comes in 3 colorways that are designed to perfectly pair with your favorite watches. So click the link in the description below, vincerowatches.com/thetake, or enter the code THETAKE for 20% off your entire order and free global shipping.